That is very important. If someone tells me, we're doing a cultural change project, I'm going to gray, even more than before. As culture is an indirect variable, I can't create culture. Culture is not project work. I can only create framework conditions in which certain cultural patterns emerge. If you want to create creativity, you need to ask yourself, what are systemic framework conditions in which creativity appears? You can't make creativity. Otherwise we get into this friendly method, that I would say, be creative. Oops, then you are scared and ask yourself, how does that work? This is at least as absurd as saying, be spontaneous, but please now, don't think of a pink elephant. What are we doing? We are doing something that doesn't really work. If you are talking about creativity, talk about indirect spaces of possibility, and not about direct creation. One indirect spaces of possibility of creativity is diversity. When you increase diversity, a system, whether that's cultural, or stylistic, doesn't matter at all. Intelligent systems that are able to accumulate and not just assimilate, which can change in their process pattern, are always systems that work with internal tensions. Systems with internal tensions create unstable phases. Systems with unstable phases create the possibility to transition to new pattern, and that's what we call creativity. So, increase the internal tension in the system. Create diversity, then you create the possibility to change the process pattern. Don't make uniformity. Harmonic systems are stupid systems. In nature, patterns always arise from contradiction, not from harmony. Therefore, if you really want to have complex patterns, please increase the diversity in the system. Give contrarian a chance, allow the disturber, and, this is almost trivial, build networks. At the moment you build networks, you create a situation where the nonlinear feedback repeatedly dissolution stable states. Feedback mechanisms and diversity are extremely positive for creativity. Build networks. Make sure that your colleague in China has a direct effect on your colleague in Germany. If that happens, and really works, then the colleague in China with his diversity, if networked, will always provide sufficient announce and disturbance to his colleagues in Germany so that he has a chance to become creative. If you do this not only with 2 colleagues, but with a gigantic network, then I can tell you, the supersummative intelligence of this network will be greater than the sum of its single intelligences. Then we have really achieved something, and we talk about the fact that we have many creative people. Please search, perhaps you can of course search for the single example of the creative, so it. If you look in the past, search for the single creative individual, there you always searched for the individual who bears the pain of some biographical accident so well that he is creative. Today I don't look for this biographical accident anymore, today I try to look for systems that don't need this biographical accident anymore, because they themselves are an accident. So, build systems that interfere. Systems that do not interfere are always stability-oriented systems. Make sure that the complexity and dynamics within the system are at least as great as the complexity and dynamics on the market. Simply follow Ashby's law. Ashby as a system theoretician said in the 50s, wherever we have a highly complex dynamic problem system, we need at least such a complex dynamic solution system. Therefore, if don't have anything matching the complexity, we aren't able to solve the problem. As our world becomes more and more complex, through networking, one can say, the only solution we have is complexity through networking. Because then we have the chance. The brain, there we are again with my initial statement, that I have only tried to map the brain to management. The brain shows that man, with his brain can survive from the equator to the North Pole, the only living being that can. Why? Because we have a complex dynamic system that puts us in a position to live with complex dynamic systems. I.e. only because our brain generates incalculable dynamics, only therefore can we deal to some extent with incalculable dynamics. The brain is a great invention of nature in dealing with unpredictability. The other great invention that nature has made is not the individual intelligence of the brain, but the collective intelligence of the swarm. That was at least as great as an achievement. There are actually only 2 assertive mechanisms. One is state-forming insects. They can be found all over the world, are incredibly successful as species, and the individual brain in the high development of man. That is successful, as it is a dynamic complex system, as with the state-building insects only within one individual. And with the other it is in the quantity of its individuals. The principle is the same, high interactivity, high feedback effects, and then they can create patterns. That's just very, very effective. In my own context, I always try to build such systems today. If you would ask, what do you do to be successful, then I would no longer say be smart, but observe the market. That's almost imperative. I always try to understand what's going on out there, and I'm trying to build networks. I'm just replicating the brain. In my networks there are always three characters of people. There are the creators, those are the crackpots who always bother me, who always come up with new ideas. There are the owners. They possess the knowledge. They are those people who master something inside out. And there are the brokers. They are the people who know something and mediate. Now you can actually say, these three groups of people form a brain together. Bring the creator and the owner together, I get ideas. There emerge due to knowledge and instability a pool of ideas, this is the cortex. Bring the owner and the broker together, I have two evaluators together. The broker must be able to evaluate if knowledge is useful, and the owner must be able to evaluate. Here I have the limbic system. Bring the broker and the creator together, then I have excitement. The broker bothers me, and the creator bothers me. I.e., what do I get then? An ascending reticular activating formation that excites me again and again. Bring these three together, achievement, resolution and evaluation, then you have a brain. I don't do anything else. I just look for those people who have these characteristics. And believe me, they are different. You quickly find out who a good broker is. They are not deep in their knowledge, but they always know exactly who knows. And these creators, they are not necessarily deep in their knowledge, but they spin like champions. They can create new patterns incredibly fast. And the owners are these valuable people who know something really well. But, when they are alone, usually don't find any new solutions, because they can't manage instability. Therefore, without the excitement and without the disturbance, it becomes very, very difficult. And so, if you like, you can build intelligent systems whose sum intelligence is greater than the intelligence of the people involved. And that is my big goal.